All right, everybody. Welcome. This is John Spalding with Cuyahoga County and NBC Shows. Tonight we have Amy McCorkle, and this is our third screening of the documentary Letters to Daniel from Breakdown to Bestseller. So thanks for being here tonight, Amy. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going really, really well.
Your 2008, as I was talking to you beforehand, is going pretty good.
Yes, it is. Actually, it's going very well. It had a little speed bump there at the beginning, but it's part of why I do what I do.
Gotcha. How is the Letters to Daniel project coming along?
Well, I can't. There's one thing I can't talk about, but I just thought I'd put a little kid, little thing attached to the film that I can't mention yet because not all the details are ironed out legally or whatever, so I can't really drop any knowledge about that. But it looks like I'm going to have a chance to. There was someone who I met at Indie Gathering for maybe 5 seconds, who approached me and asked to see the pitch proposal and the script.
Okay.
So that was on Thursday. She was supposed to read it this past weekend. I'll touch base with her again sometime this week. So maybe.
Good. And I have a couple things I'm going to go over and just show them the website for just a minute. I believe it goes to the right one. And so we have on the website the June NBC splash page for Healing Hands. Well, there's the link for tonight's broadcast. And then if you scroll down, we have a post. The latest post is Amy's latest letter to Daniel Craig. And then there was something I wanted to share, and that is new today as well. And that is the Letters to Daniel from Breakdown to Bestseller ebook of tonight's video. Is that correct?
It's actually a little bit more extended. The documentary is what I call the greatest hits because you can only read so many letters in the course of a film. You cannot do the whole book. And that was based on the first volume of letters I put out. This is a compilation of all the letters up until January 1 of, I believe it was last year. And that was a collection, and it was revised and put together. It was published in 2016, actually.
Okay.
And it's got all the letters up until 2016. All the letters from 2016 to 2018 now are all new because I still write on the blog from time to time, as you mentioned. But I would highly recommend the ebook because it tells there's a very complete story in it. It's kind of structured with some letters from intros and endings from friends of mine who walked through the whole journey with me. And so they kind of give it a framework, a context. The letters are context. So it's not just
It's not just the letters.
It's not just the letters, which is what I wanted to do with the film initially, but I made a mistake in the editing process, and it didn't work out
for what we're about to see.
Yes,
gotcha.
So there were two letters that were supposed to be at the beginning. One would have been read by my aunt. That explains the credits. One would have been read by my aunt. One would have been read by my uncle, and they were reading letters from Melissa Goodman and an introduction by Melissa Goodman and an intro by Tim Druck. And so those letters didn't make the cut, but I wish they had.
Gotcha.
So
you still have them?
No. Those are actually on the hard drive of another friend's computer, and I think that computer may have bit the big one.
Oh man.
So I've got the master file, but I don't have the sound files. I had it on a jump drive, and I have no idea where that jump drive got lost in my room at some point.
Yeah, and with all the scripts and other books and projects you have laying around in your room, I'm sure that finding something like a jump drive or a flip drive would be pretty difficult.
Yeah, that's why I like Dropbox, because it's all there. You know, it's
Yep.
all on Dropbox. It's all on Dropbox.
So that is on the site, you guys. Buy the ebook,
Yes, buy
purchase
the
the
ebook.
ebook, support the Letters to Daniel project, and that's what our main focus is here with June NBC and working with Healing Hands Entertainment, is to make sure that we acquire funding for the full feature Letters to Daniel movie. In addition to the other work and the great work that you're doing, Amy, out there, getting in front of people and showing them the pitch package and things like that. But so every little bit helps. So we're glad to partner with you to show off some of your work and get you some residual sales of your intellectual property and the things that you have going on.
Thank you. I'm happy to share it on another venue other than Amazon.
We take a little bit less.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, and you charge me. You charge them a little bit less too.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, cool. Tell people who might be watching or who might watch it later a little bit again about the Letters to Daniel project and kind of um, your best kind of summary but also intro to this film.
Okay, so Letters to Daniel started off as a blog, and it was just initially a fan letter, open fan letter to Daniel Craig, probably one of my favorite actors. And about halfway through the blog, I realized I was telling him all these things about my life. And I was like, well, I can't squeeze my whole life into one letter. And so I thought, okay, I've got this blog, I've created this platform. What am I going to do with it? So I decided to make it. He made it easy, just using that idea of him listening to me telling my story made me less self-conscious to share my story of growing up and being abused, and also being diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and living with it, and getting to a place of healing, or at least being in a day-to-day thing where you're putting more good days together than you're having bad days.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to put it is you go from peaks and valleys to rolling hills. And if you are still having those peaks and valleys, then please stick around for the film. Things can get better. Things do get better. It can take a while, because when I was treatment compliant for a long time before I actually started making a turn in my recovery. It was very difficult, but even on meds, it was always still better. And going to treatment was always still better than having no treatment and no meds. But around 2011, I started making a turn in my recovery, and that was actually when I got my first publication contract. And I structured my day, and the letters themselves. I like to say this film is the Letters to Daniel greatest hits, where you hit the high points and the low points, and you get a real sharp contrast picture, like a snapshot of what my journey was like through these letters. And some people would say, oh, you don't have the greatest narrator's voice. Well, that wasn't the point of this movie. They're called Letters to Daniel, and they're from me. So it made sense for me to be the narrator on a documentary. I didn't know anybody who did voiceover. I'm living proof. You don't have to have a mega budget. You don't have to have anything. I'm not going to tell you how much this film cost, because if I did, you'd probably laugh and say, ha, 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 but you don't have to have a lot of money. You really don't have to have any money to make a film. You just have to kind of have the vision and the guts to go after it. And what I wanted to do with this film was to reach people. It was actually just a project because I wanted to make a movie, and I thought, what's the best way to make a movie? And I made this movie because I thought it would speak to people. I didn't ever expect it to screen in festivals, except one really small festival. And when it started winning awards, I was flabbergasted. And when it won at Action on Film and Indie Gathering, it was more jaw dropping than since it won an award locally. But you kind of have that home base, and yeah. But I do say I do take pride in that first trophy I got because I feel like there was a judge on there that understood what the vision of the film was and the message I was trying to get across, which was there's hope, there's healing, and there's recovery.
Gotcha. And it's going to lead to your full feature, or it helped you lead to writing the full feature film, which is kind of the basis of the biography, but kind of taking it to the next level. So tell us a little bit about that project.
Okay, Letters to Daniel, the narrative feature film, tells the story of how 18 years ago I suffered a bipolar breakdown and how through treatment of meds, therapy, and support of friends and loved ones, I went on to become an award-winning, best-selling author, blogger, screenwriter, and filmmaker. But it tells that story through the prism of mine and my friend of 21 years and writing partner of 19 years, Melissa Goodman, of our friendship. And it talks about it. You don't always see it this way, but it's told through both of our perspectives, both the person with the illness and then the perspective of the caregiver's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not told through a romantic lens. A lot of times we see a lot of love stories with involved, and there's nothing wrong with that because those are perfectly valid stories and perfectly good stories and perfect stories that need to be heard. But for me, I didn't have the boyfriend, the husband, or whatever, and we were out in Texas, and there was nobody out there but me and Missy out there trying to make it in the independent film world in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I'm surprised we got anything done because it was epic and it was a failure, but it was so epic, and how big we went out there and tried to do it. It probably brought on the triggers of what happened. I wouldn't
Gotcha.
well, it's like Maya Angelou said, I wouldn't trade nothing for my journey now. I wouldn't be here now with that experience then.
I didn't know you guys were out in Texas doing your thing.
Yeah, for a year.
Okay.
And went to bed hungry, woke up hungry, ate spaghetti 5 nights a week, hot dogs for variety.
Yeah, that's living the independent creatives experience, isn't it?
We slept on the floor. All we had were 2 air mattresses. We had no table, we had no chairs, we had no paper, we had no pen, we had no computer. And we were out there trying to make a movie. We had a little TV. We were without cable for the longest time. But
did you have video cameras?
No.
That's key. Did you guys know that was key to making a movie?
We were trying to get a sole proprietor's business license, and we were going to hire the people we needed to work on our film. We had no clue about how to go about doing it. We just said we're going to do this. And we stepped out. We were 23 and 24 years old, and we went out there in a Ford Escort, and there was so much shit in the car that you couldn't see out the back window, and every time you hit a bump, scraping the ground on the way out.
Wait, for real? Is this scene in the movie?
Yes, and yeah, that's actually, it starts at the small film festival I was talking about.
I got a couple shirts I want to donate to put in the luggage in the back of the car.
So yeah, it's about our journey, and it starts off at a film festival where Letters to Daniel got the breakdown, the bestseller, got its actual premiere. It won its first award at Indie Gathering, which absolutely shocked me because I entered the film on a fluke into Indie Gathering, and when they said you get an honorable mention, I was absolutely flabbergasted.
Gotcha. Something happened with your mic a little bit. It got like lower or something. I don't know. It just seemed to get a little bit muted, but if you don't know like what happened, I wouldn't worry about it. Okay.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
But basically, it talks about half the film takes place out in San Antonio, Texas, and the second half takes place in Louisville, in Mount Washington, Kentucky, and Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
So the film both starts and ends at that film festival, and at the end, and what I think is so funny is at the end where we're receiving our award for runner-up for documentary. There were all of 2 documentaries there.
Oh, wow.
but they weren't obligated to give us an award. So, and the person who was in charge of assigning the runner-up awards
Hmm.
didn't have to give us one, and I really respect that person. Who actually, not just because he gave us an award, but because of what his film knowledge is, because he's a film major.
Right, right.
And so he's a smart guy, he's knowledgeable in film studies was his degree. So I really respected the judge who was in charge of that. And so we didn't have to get one.
Okay.
And what happens is, uh, well, actually, all the judges had to judge on it. I just know that I know he was a big fan of Letters to Daniel, and and but the funny thing is I'm smiling at the end of that movie. My character is, but I got to tell you, I've changed a lot since 2014. I was not pleased with that runner up. I wanted that first place trophy.
Sure,
So,
sure.
so even though I'm smiling in the movie, there's a behind the scene fact. It was the last day of the festival. I was not. I've got to tell you, I'm better equipped to handle festivals now and stuff like that. And that a lot of times I'm just happy to be there. I'm happy to be invited to the party because it's so rare to get an award for your work.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was like, okay, imagine having bipolar disorder, and okay, it's like I have a gas tank, and it was like 5 o'clock in the evening on the last day of the festival. I was exhausted, and I was just ready to be home and away from the hotel, away from the people. I was just sensory overload, and so it was hard to be grateful because I was like not comfortable. It was like bipolar problems were preventing me from really enjoying the moment of receiving the award that Missy and I got for the film.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Well,
But it's gone on to do great things on the
yeah,
festival.
it really is. It really is. So I want you to know that we can now accept Bitcoin and other alternative coins on your website for people that want to either donate to the
Oh,
film, or it is the ones that are up there now are for buying ad space on the G1NBC Healing Hands page.
okay.
So they
And
can do that, and then just to let everyone know, then we can also accept U.S. dollars as well, and those will be up on the site shortly.
ooh, give.
Give, or more so, buy an ad. So Amy has a lot. You have a lot of friends in the independent film industry and things like that. If you guys have shows coming up this year or things that you have going on, consider taking an ad out on the Healing Hands website and help make the full feature happen.
Yeah, I would love for that that would be awesome.
Yeah, so cool. Well, thanks for being on. Let's get into the documentary, then we'll come back and
Excellent.
close it out.
Okay.
All right, Amy and I will be back. This is the Letters to Daniel Breakdown, the Bestseller documentary. It's about 54, 55 minutes, and we will be back after that.
Dear Daniel, let's get the elephant out of the way. I don't know you, you don't know me, but I know your work, and it's impressive. And what it's done for me is really beyond anything I could have hoped for or even expected. I'm a successful small press and soon to be indie writer. I write everything under the sun: short stories, novellas, novels. I even write screenplays, none of which I'm sure you're ever going to read or see. But I'm a big believer in paying it forward, so I'll do what I do with anything I write and begin at the beginning. This blog is really a platform to thank you for all that I've been blessed with over the last 2.5 years. But the seeds were planted in September of 2009 when I rented Casino Royale. I went out and bought it. And that's saying a lot. I wasn't much of a Bond girl myself. It's not that the movies were bad, I just found them not for me. But I'll admit, the scene when you came up out of the water at the beginning of the film did make an impression on me. However, there are plenty of films that where I think men are nice to look at, but if the story isn't there, I won't go see it. I'm a bit of a film snob in that regard. That being said, I loved the movie and thought Vesper Lynd was the best Bond girl ever. I know people say Bond woman now, but the reality is this. I'm from Kentucky and I'm 37 years old. I say girl. It's just the vernacular. I liked Vesper Lynd so much, I chose Lynd for my last name for my sci-fi and dystopian books that I write. But I digress. In May of 2010, I went to CoyoteCon, an online writing conference, including a writing contest, NaNoWriMo. I wrote a 50K book in 30 days. It was called Another Way to Die. And for the first time, I used you as a hero template. In February of 2011, at another online writing conference, Digicon, I pitched the book and eventually landed in a contract with a Canadian e-publisher, Museup Publishing. I was 35. I'd been writing for 30 years. 17 of those years I'd been seeking publication. Finally, validation. I cried. I had been through so much, and really so much in my life that I couldn't possibly cover it in just one post, hence the blog. I've been emotionally and sexually abused. I live with a bipolar diagnosis, and right now I seem to be going through some sort of renaissance. I'm more confident than I've ever been. I've signed 23 publication contracts since February of 2011. 7 of them are out under my given name, Amy McCorkle, or my pen name, Kate, for Kate Winslet, Lynd for Vesper Lynd. I've won awards, the high point so far being a 2012 Moondance International Film Festival Award for Best Short Story. There have been highs and lows. At one point, I was going to bed hungry and waking up hungry. Struggling with symptoms with bipolar disorder can be very hard, all in the name of trying to make a movie. It's just been recently that I've turned back to a love of mine, screenwriting. I'm better now, sane now, and this summer and fall I'll be going out to promote 2 books, Gemini's War and City of the Damned, including a huge double launch, which is going to be a sanctioned event at Fandom Fest Fright Night Film Festival. Kind of like San Diego Comic-Con, only not as big, although for me it will be. Your work has inspired me, even in some very low and scary times, to hang on to my dreams and to pursue my passion at all costs. As a thank you, I'd like to invite you, your wife, and your daughter to the launch. Now, I don't know anyone who knows you, and this is a relatively new blog, so I won't hold my breath or even dare to think you would for a split second think about coming. I'm not that self-absorbed or self-involved. But all the same, I really think you should know that you're a big part of why this summer is going to be so huge for me. Again, thank you. I'm forever indebted to you. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, ever been scared? Me, I'm scared of everything. Heights, bugs, closed-in spaces. But I'm not talking about that kind of scared. What I'm asking is, have you ever been afraid for your life because of what someone else was doing? Some say murder is the only capital crime there is, but I disagree. I think rape belongs up there. If you go by what I've been through, I've been scared for my life so many times by so many different men that maybe I should be used to it by now. But even of those times, there is one time that stands out above the others. When I was 5, a cop stuck his service weapon in my mouth. Ever tasted gunmetal? It gags you. And the worst part isn't the pain your predator is putting you through. No, it's the sheer terror of both the gun going off in your mouth, and if you so much as, my predator put it, cry, flinch, or scream for help, he will not just kill you, but kill your 3-year-old sister who is sleeping just feet away on the bed. You feel so alone at that point. Like no one loves you, like no one will believe you, like no one will ever find you worthy to be loved or find you beautiful again. In some cases, the violators' faces have blurred together. The voices are just an amalgamation of every bad thing you ever heard. In my biological father's case, it was hearing these words while he was molesting me. Stupid, ugly, worthless, whore, slut. No one will ever believe you over me. And when I tested the waters and telling my mother as an adult, she confronted him about it. So what do you think he said? Yes, I did it. I irreparably harmed our daughter, and I'll never be able to atone for what I've done to her. I honestly don't know what she expected him to say. Mom just assumes because she wills it that it makes it so. So when he feigned ignorance in the same room with him, that wasn't really the reaction I needed from her. What I needed her to say was string the son of a bitch up by his toes. Since that wasn't what I got, I learned pretty fast family wasn't exactly the place to look for comfort and healing in this particular matter. What I realized was that only a therapist and your closest friends would ever stand by you in this. So when the night terrors and nightmares over the past years plagued me, I turned to an old source to calm down as an adult. My magic sleeping pill was a copy of Cowboys and Aliens. Don't get me wrong, the movie didn't bore me, but Jake Lonergan had inspired several works of my fiction. Well, your performance of him had. And the idea that he wasn't beyond redemption and that he could be a hero appealed to me. The fact he loses two loves wasn't lost on me at all. But the way he was willing to stand up for a woman, well, let's just say that was a welcome respite from the flashbacks which were panic and terror-inducing. I know you're not Jake or Bond or Mikhail, but you're an artist plying your trade. I don't know your personal story, and in many ways I prefer it that way. It enables me to work my imagination to project onto a character that looks like you. I don't deserve to know what goes on in your private life. It's why tabloids don't interest me. I'm telling my story not because I desire some sort of reality television program, but because I want, for some reason, for you to know where I came from and how I survived and succeeded in the face of terrible odds. And I guess I want others to know, too, who might be in similar situations, that if I survived, so can they, and that this is one way to do it. Your work did a lot for me, and if the universe turns further in my favor, maybe, perhaps I'll get to work with you. As it stands, I'm content to just thank you. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, when I was in high school, as I mentioned, I wrote my first screenplay. It was awful. It was dreadful. And honestly, if it's ever found, I will disavow I ever dreamed up the thing. But last night, Missy and I finished a 14-year journey that started in January of 1999. Well, really 15 years when we took a screenwriting workshop offered by Michael Haig. He taught us the components and nuts and bolts of a screenplay. And we wrote many a bad screenplay. We even entered one of them into the prestigious Austin Film Festival. It, too, was bad. The one thing I learned how to do really well at the workshop was pitch. Now, not to brag, but I have sold many books on the pitch alone. But screenplays, not so much. And my prowess in the longer form was not exactly matched in the form of movie writing. There have been many drafts and many opportunities to turn You're the Reason into the real deal. Missy and I decided we wanted to make a movie, so we went to a filmmaking workshop where we learned a lot and knew how to do just enough to be dangerous. The first draft of You're the Reason was written in 5 days. Crazy, insane, and full of disagreements. But what we produced got us the most heat from Hollywood that we've ever gotten. Lee Daniels and Zod Perry both showed initial interest on the pitch. But even though You're the Reason had a lot of promise, and when Lee Daniels passed twice in the same year, he gave us a call the second time and told us it wasn't what they were looking for, but that we had talent and we should keep working at it. Since no one in Hollywood ever calls just to give you a pep talk, Missy and I were excited about the progress. That was in the early 2000s, right before Monsters Ball and way before Precious. But we've rewritten the thing too many times to count. But most recently, after we saw a YouTube video of Kevin Smith's Burn in Hell speaking tour, he extolled the virtues of why not? Write the book, make the movie, produced the play. By the way, that's another thing I want to do. Missy came to me and pitched the idea of writing You're the Reason Now. We started writing in late March, the day after Kevin Smith started Clerks 3, and we finished exactly one day after he did, which means, well, I and Missy are always talking about signs and how things are meant to happen. I never know how a screenplay is going to play to a reader, and to be honest, City of the Damned, an adaptation of my series, with the idea that Missy would get a Michelle Phillips-like credit, which she does, as someone who has seen me through 2 emotional breakdowns because of the bipolar disorder, and gone to bed hungry and woken up that way, it certainly wouldn't do to have her not there for the good times as well. That being said, You're the Reason is a joint venture from start to finish. We've entered both screenplays into Austin, and although I do believe these scripts truly do have the potential to win it all, the only thing I'm sure of is they are good enough to advance. It just depends on who is reading them. City of the Damned is also entered in Phantom Fest Fright Night Film Fest screenwriting competition. Phantom Fest is going to be a lot of work and I hope fun. With Missy there and other friends, I'm sure it will be regardless of how the screenwriting competition turns out. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I wish I could say that the publishing world was devoid of the kind of cattiness and diva posturing one finds in Hollywood. That distinct brand of phoniness is just as pervasive in publishing as it is in the film industry. And since I tend to be an open book and trust that one is being genuine with me, it hurts my feelings when I, like it with any human being, when I realize one is just another jerk and douchebag. I am not delusional, and I suppose me being the kind of geeked out fangirl I am, I suppose it can come across that way. I suppose if I really wanted to be a bitch about it, I could expose the ladies who are responsible for the hypocrisy, but I won't. It would be a waste of time and energy, and trust me, their lives are far worse and emptier than mine, and I figure that's the best revenge. In that respect, I suppose I can be catty too. I think what sucks about the whole situation is that these ladies opened up to me and invited me into their lives and went through the effort to make me feel like I was their friend. As a result, I'm always singing the praises to anyone who'll listen. Finding out they badmouth me and consider me delusional over my appreciation of your work, well, that stings. I wish I could say that it didn't, but it does. If I haven't made it clear before now, allow me to say it now. I belong to Geekdom's very sweet, very inclusive community referred to as fandom. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I love the X-Files and Highlander. This summer, I get to get my photo taken with Adrian Paul, the television series star of Highlander, and Gillian Anderson, Scully of the X-Files. I have never been so excited in my life. Those shows were pivotal in my survival of insomnia during the years they were on, and even though I'm not going to get a chance to explain that to them in my brief seconds with them, it will be a culmination of any fangirl's geek out moment. On a more serious note, I have not one but 2 screenplays in competition that I co-wrote with my best friend Missy. One of our screenwriting, filmmaking idols, Kevin Smith, will be there. Going to his Q&A with his best friend Jason Mewes is like a full circle moment for us. We're huge fans of his. As I said, we started writing You're the Reason one day after he started writing Clerks 3 and finished exactly one day after. I'm a huge romantic and see symbolism in just about everything. As much as I dream about one day working with you, I realize my independent streak might keep me in the small press indie filmmaking world. And even though you paid your dues and cut your chops in the prestigious schools, that's not where you ply your trade anymore. You live in more rarefied air. Not that you think you're better than this world. In fact, from an interview I read once, I get the feeling you respect the indies very much. You're aware of the fact when you become attached to a project, money becomes an issue for any studio. And with that comes creative control, and you feel like the indie world is where people like me see my vision out to the end I want to see, and not what a bunch of suits want. Not that that is a bad way to work. Some are able to strike a balance in that world and work very well in that environment and create great work. Your friend Sam Mendes is a perfect example. I don't like everything he does, but I love Skyfall, and it is clear he's a brilliant director. In the end, I suppose the fact I struggle with and I live with a bipolar diagnosis, but deal with it and am in treatment for it, and I'm not afraid to share that with people. I guess when people call me delusional, it upsets me. They're no better than the person who gives me the, oh my God, you're fucking crazy look when I share that with them. Let me just state for the record, I am a survivor of both abuse and mental illness. I have worked very hard to get where I am, and where others have failed, I have been successful. I typically have a profanity-filled sentence for haters and doubters. So even though their phoniness has hurt me, I'll say to them what I have said to my doubters and others who've hurt me. A variation on haters or motivators. How did people say? Oh yes, they can go fuck themselves. It seems I can be catty too. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, late at night when I lie down to sleep, sometimes, a lot in recent days, a depression falls over me, a loneliness and an ache, and I feel so isolated and alone in this world. I know I'm not, but I can't help it. I've never pegged myself as needing a man to complete me or validate my existence, but I find myself at a point where I want someone to celebrate my accomplishments with, someone that I can appreciate and he can appreciate me. I know, it all sounds very silly, but at night, at times like in the past, most of the abuse happened, I'd like to feel protected. And in this world, I don't feel very protected or like there's anyone who will stand up for me other than myself. I know this is a myopic viewpoint and that it's simply not true, that I have friends who do it all the time, but I want someone to defend me, to love me for me, and not be scared of the fact that I do have a bipolar diagnosis. Of course, maybe I'm scared of the fact I have a bipolar diagnosis. Maybe I find myself unwanted or undesirable, and if that's the case, why would anyone else want to take the chance? And if I'm completely honest with myself, I know there's a lot of that going on. But at 37, I find I'm turning over a new leaf. I've never been much for dressy clothes. My style has always been my own. T-shirt and jeans, a brush through my hair, and I'm done. But I decided to shake things up a bit. I went out and got my hair cut and colored. I bought some new clothes, and I even got makeup and some jewelry. I hate shopping, so I bought these wedge boots and wore them once. Dear Lord, they nearly killed my feet in the process. But I felt good, I felt confident, and I was ready to take on the world. I even included a few pictures of me at Conglomeration, a small sci-fi con here in Louisville. This last year has been really great. The compliment I got from my publisher yesterday made me feel really good, and my writing is stronger than ever. A guy even flirted with me and told me I was cute. He was attractive and funny and smart, so I feel more confident and sure of myself than I have in a very long time. I know I'm 37. I know I want to be in a relationship, but I also know I don't have to sacrifice who I am and what I believe to be in one. Perhaps I am high maintenance, not in that diva, bitchy way where I think the world revolves around me, but in that I need patience, kindness, and lots of love because perhaps my road hasn't been as smooth as some of the others around me. But then I believe everyone has a story. So some put their lives on blast for fame and glory and get infamy in return, then complain about it. I can't watch the Kardashians. I'm sure they're good people, but they come off as overindulged and entitled, and that is something I can do without. Having gone to bed hungry and woken up that way, I can say what I have now been through, it has been worth it. And as I lose the weight and the emotions come to the surface, like late at night, I just have to ride it out until morning when I can talk to someone. And my stepdad, John, is usually where I start. He recently lost 155 pounds, and even though he's quick to strike out emotionally, he makes amends these days. And it's always me It always serves me to be more emotionally honest with him than anyone else in my family. And by emotionally honest, I don't mean being a bitch. I mean sitting down and telling him he hurt my feelings and taking responsibility for my part in whatever may have happened. It makes for a better living arrangement. I wish I could do that with my mom, but she's always right, and there's no two ways about it. But then I guess everyone's mom is that way. But I know on a good day she'd give me the shirt off her back and anyone else's who happens to be standing there. You should know, I love my family, and even though they're a dysfunctional lot, and even though they've hurt me, as I'm sure I've hurt them, I would do anything for them. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I have dreams, big dreams. Some might call them grandiose, but I really believe anything is possible if you just put your mind to it. I dream of lots of things, and I think it's important to dream because sometimes in the darkness, they're the only light you've got. They're the only things that keep you hanging on when you feel like you're about to come undone. And in October of 1999, that's what I felt like. Less and less sleep every night. The inability to sleep, throwing things at my best friend, cursing her, threatening her. At one point, I knew who she was, but I didn't know my own name. And worst of all, I couldn't write. And when I did write, it was shit. The only thing I had was my dreams and her friendship. They were my touchstones. Why they didn't vanish, I don't know. Both of them refused to give up on me. I wanted to write screenplays. I wanted to make a movie. And when I reached out for help, I saw my efforts to hang in there rewarded. The first film I saw after being diagnosed was The Insider. Set in Kentucky and centered on the whistleblower Jeffrey Wigand, I was introduced to the actor Russell Crowe in a leading role. I had seen him before in L.A. Confidential, and he was brilliant in it. But that movie really pissed me off. Cold-blooded killers don't miss at point-blank range. But that's a story inconsistency, and Russell and everyone else in that movie were superb in their performances. The cool blue filters used on The Insider were soothing to my jangled, recovering nerves after an emotional breakdown. And as a result, I loved that movie. And for all the talk of Kevin Spacey and Denzel Washington, they too were superb in American Beauty and The Hurricane. I thought Russell's breakthrough performance as an alcoholic, tightly wound tobacco scientist was incredible. And of course, it was set in the city I was born and raised in. They had been looking for production assistants on that film. Believe me, I was kicking myself when I realized what kind of opportunity I had passed up on. The thing is it made me realize I could still enjoy a movie. It had been a good year since I realized just how much I couldn't sit and relax because of the bipolar disorder. But being on the meds was like night and day. However, the worst thing happened. Creatively, I went dry for 8 months and wrote nothing. Nada. Zilch. Then in May, the floodgates opened. What happened? I saw a preview for Gladiator. Before I ever went to the theater, I wrote a novella. It sucked. It was bad. It was a historical. Now, I have no business writing a historical, but it was a gift from the writing gods. I could still write stories. I was still passionate about writing stories. It was such a relief to know I wasn't dead in that area, as I had always been passionate about storytelling. Missy says I've always got my head in the clouds, and she's got me by the ankles, grounding me so that I don't float off into the ethers, which is so very true. I often have a big vision, and I can get things moving. Like the red carpet launch, for example. I made the plans, food, my publisher, the book trailer, film festival, the promotion, the venue. When we got to the location, Missy set up everything. The books, the swag display, the food, the ice. She's really great. Everyone needs to be so lucky as to have at least one friend like Missy. I mean, it's not like I'm chopped liver. We've truly walked through the fire together. She's seen me at my worst and not walked away. And vice versa. You don't find friends like that every day. Hell, you don't find family like that every day. When you've eaten spaghetti 5 nights a week and hot dogs for variety the other 2 nights and meet with someone who understands what it's like to go to bed hungry and wake up hungry, then you know they're a friend. I know it's crazy, but the litmus test for the guy in my life won't be my mom and dad. It will be Missy. Mom and dad will just want someone who will take me off their hands. I know I'm 37, but I believe it's never too late to find love. Given my life, often it is hope that keeps me going, dreams that fuel my ambition, and I look for that hope and those dreams in my field of passion, the creative arts. But I know a lot of elbow grease goes into that ambition. That nose to the grindstone approach is the only thing that works, and that success is in the eye of the beholder. I have had success, and yet I dream of different things. I'm excited about The Last Warrior series I'm working on. Maybe I'll share more about it next time. As it is, this letter is long, and I'm sure you and whoever is reading this understands dreams don't just happen, but that hard work is the only thing that leads to it. Even then, it's not a guarantee. You have to be prepared when the opportunity arises, and I have a dash of luck for good measure. These last 2.5 years, I've been ready. I've been fortunate, and I've capitalized on opportunities that have presented themselves. I don't apologize for that. I spent my whole life apologizing for the person I was. I'm sick of that shit. I have people in my circle who have a problem with that, and it seems, unfortunately, I'm going to have to deal with them sooner rather than later. But it makes it especially hard when you're depending on them so much. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I know I'm coming to you twice today, but I'm hurting and I feel like no one within my vicinity can hear me or help me. I have good friends. Check that. I have great friends, and my family often hates it when I put them in front of what they want me to do. But you have to know, I was happy for a little while to have them home from their vacation at the lake. Being alone for so long had gotten to me a little bit last night, and it kind of fucked with me. I blubbered to my best friend Missy, and she said, you need to tell your mother they can't just leave you stranded like that all weekend. Either they need to leave you the car, or you need to go with them to the lake. You would have thought I'd unleashed the apocalypse, or perhaps opened the gates of hell, because I'm pretty sure my mother's head spun like a top and pea soup shot out of her mouth. As it was, her eyes bugged and she started yelling. Dad said you have your sisters, and the one I have the most complicated relationship with said, Sarah lives just up the street. That's not fair. What do you say to that? I'm on disability. I love to write, and even that sometimes is affected by my bipolar disorder. But I'm prolific and I write very fast. I'm always promoting and try very hard to give praise to those who deserve it and who've helped me. So my income is $754 a month. Everything has to be paid with that. Mom isn't charging me rent in cash, but she sure is exacting her pound of flesh. After Brandy and Isaiah left, the argument continued. She slammed things while she was cleaning and said I wasn't Missy's daughter. I said no, she's my best friend. And a lot of stuff. Before it could get any worse, I retreated to my bedroom where I could talk in peace to Missy. I chose to text her and talk on Facebook. I didn't want to escalate the fight to something more disastrous than it already was. She talked to Sarah, got over whatever was making her angry to the point of rage, and I told her Missy heard me crying and being lonely and cooped up for 3 days without a way of leaving at midnight, and there wasn't much she could do, and it made her feel bad for me. I want to take a moment here and say I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I understand I made a deal with the devil moving in here last August. I knew what kind of people they were, and I knew it would come to this. Her being mad at someone and her taking it out on me. John being sick and taking it out on me. Per the car situation, I don't have the money to support my fledgling writing career and save for a vehicle and pay for bills. I can do 2 of the 3. Barely. And I have to depend on the kindness from others, and it makes me feel like a mooch and a leech, like I'm not paying my own way through life. These are my crosses to bear and no one else's. But it's lonely sometimes, and when people who are supposed to love and support you kick you while you're down, well, that makes it kind of hard. But when the successes do come, they are admittedly so much sweeter. Award-winning British novelist Victoria Lamb loves this blog and says she's jealous and wishes she had thought of it herself. Bold and the Beautiful and former General Hospital Michelle Valjean scribes agrees with her. When people like that notice your work and it makes the struggle feel worth it. It's like, hey, someone notices me. Someone likes my writing, and I'm not doing this in a vacuum. A fan friended me on Facebook and is going to make it a point to see me at a signing I'm doing next month. So as bad as my mom and dad and everyone was making my life, these people spread a little sunshine my way, and I love them for it. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I'm hoping I've recovered somewhat from yesterday. Confrontations like that take it out of me, and my long-form writing suffers because of it. I got maybe 2 pages done on Warrior done because of it. I wish I could say my emotions didn't inhibit my work, but when I'm that angry or hurt, they block me, and when I'm ready to write again, I'm usually drained by the fight. Oh, they let me use the car last night to go to the bookstore. I spent the whole time talking to a friend on Facebook and just unloading a lot of stuff. I don't mean to come off so negative sometimes. My family is just so screwed up. Don't get me wrong, I love them and all, but when the chips are down, I should know better than to approach them with anything beyond the simple light lifting they desire. I think they have a fundamental misunderstanding of who I am and a lack of ability to understand the adult I've become as a result of a lot of choices I was forced to make as a child and ones I chose to make as an adult. One of those things, as I've always said, is that I don't want kids, even as a kid. But as a kid, I was raising and protecting to some degree my 2 younger siblings. Ever since I can remember, Brandy was in need of some kind of shield, and at the time I was willing to take it up for her. In all honesty, I think it was probably that sort of thinking that helped me survive the abuse at Jerry's on the weekends when he, his brother, and one of his guests would prey on me. But I'm tired of protecting others to my own detriment. Is that wrong? I mean, I'm extremely loyal to my friends, Pam, Missy, Elise, Carla. I'm making new friends and professional contacts who treat me better than my own family does. The small press has kind of embraced me, and I like it. It makes me feel like I'm loved and appreciated. I wonder, am I so broken that professional friendships have to take the place of the blood bonds and those who say they love me more than anyone simply because of that fact? How broken am I that I still want validation from my biological father who doesn't know me, abused me, and will never quite know how much he's damaged me? I wrote him a letter once telling him I hated the things that he did to me and didn't do for me. As a practicing alcoholic who smokes, Jerry is a Vietnam vet. His mother was a cold woman. She wrote my name once on the picture of the fattest woman in the photograph and left it for me to find. His dad was married 17 times that he can remember. He also thought it was okay to strike a woman down. The only thing I remember about him is that he was a drinker too, and that he was sick most of the time I knew him with cancer. And he had a dog that bit me. His teeth went through and through. Of course, in the dog's defense, he was chained to the trailer. That's Jerry's side of the family. He had 2 brothers, one who abused me, and a sister whom we often went camping with. I think Jerry is the black sheep. It's not like all the McCorkles are worthless. He had an uncle named Houston, and he had 2 sons, Doug and Lemont, who now goes by Lee. The only reason I know about Lee is because last year at my launch for the Gladiator Chronicles, Lee sought me out. He had his son Miller with him. We talked about Star Trek and how he and his brother used to travel the sci-fi con circuit together. I had a giveaway tote full of books from Use It Up authors, and Miller won the giveaway, and Lee bought my book. Today has been a nice day, but again, my parents haven't been here. I worry that one day, though I love them and they love me, I will have to cut ties with them, and when they do stupid shit like they did yesterday, I certainly hope not. I love them very much and want desperately to do right by them. They just make it so damn hard sometimes. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, never, never, never quit. Winston Churchill. If you're living on the downside of advantage and are relying purely on courage, it can be done. Russell Crowe, Oscar speech for Gladiator. Haters are motivators. Kyle Busch. Today I graduate. October of 1999, I suffered my first emotional breakdown, which led to my diagnosis of bipolar disorder. In October of 2000, as the doctor sought to stabilize me with a drug cocktail, the process, coupled with being fired from Children's World because I suspected a young girl was being abused, threw me into a manic episode, which led to a second breakdown. Now, almost 15 years later, stable and in recovery, I am proud to say I am simply under medical monitoring. I will continue to see Dr. Rebeck for checkups and evaluations, but my team of brilliant physicians and therapists say I am ready to leave the nest, and should a crisis arise, I am more than welcome to return to the therapy fold. Honestly, with the bullshit I live through every day, I wonder if leaving the protective fold of therapy is such a good idea. But it's been 15 years. I still have nightmares to some degree, but they are no longer as intense or as many as they have been in the past. Oh, don't get me wrong. I still dream in Technicolor, and there are still nights when I'm watching Cowboys and Aliens and wishing there was a hero out there for me. But if therapy and treatment has taught me anything, it's that recovery and balance are possible. Recovering from an emotional breakdown is truly the hardest work I've ever put into anything, except maybe that marathon I ran in January of 1999. Putting myself back together has been no easy feat, and there are those around me who deserve a great deal of credit. Let me start with the person at the top of the list, Melissa Goodman. We started out as a writing partnership that turned into probably the best friendship I've ever had. When I fell apart, she was the kind of friend most people only dream about. If I could choose family, it would be her at the front of the line. We've withstood a lot from each other and those around us. Now, whenever I need someone to have my back, I know I can depend on her more so than anyone else. The term walking through fire applies directly through her, as I have not always been a cakewalk. In all honesty, I'm still not. But with friends like Missy, I know that when I come through something, I won't have to survive my surroundings, but that I can get down to the business of living. Then there's the group itself. I'll keep them anonymous in name, but they have been a great source of support as well. Often I am, believe it or not, cheerful, bubbly, and positive. It's just there are those around me who drain on that. These people, like Missy, have seen me at my best and my worst. I've leave nothing but the best wishes, and knowing that should the need arise, the group is there for me to return to. Given the dramatics of the last few days, I am happy for a day of celebration like today. And here's what I like about the quotes. As an endurance runner in the past, I knew if I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, that I would make it to the finish line. I never quit, and that I had the courage to start it all was huge. Finishing was just the cherry on top of a really cool Sunday, so I never quit. I cried the first time I heard Russell's speech, and again every time I see it on YouTube, because you see, sometimes I feel like courage is the only thing I have. As for haters being motivators, all successful people have people, I suppose, who don't like them and resent them for having a taste of success. I can't worry about those people. They're too busy wallowing in their own resentment and unhappiness for me to worry about. I wish they saw life the way I did, with infinite possibilities, but some are trapped in a very dark way of thinking. So when people hate me or complain about me, I tell myself, work a little bit harder, reach a little bit higher, because in the grand scheme of things, haters only hurt themselves and have nothing to do with me. Those that resent me and the way I do things, that's on them, not on me. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I have a confession to make. Last fall, while writing Gemini's War, I bought the song Skyfall by Adele on Amazon, and over a 4 to 6 week time period, I listened to it on a loop. Fantastic song. While I wrote Gemini's War. With 90 pages to go, I saw Skyfall. Within a week, the book was finished. I adore that book. I adore the song. I adore the movie. For the second book in the series, I've been listening to the Skyfall score. That is fabulous as well. Gemini's Legacy is so close to being done. 77 pages to be exact. I'm going to be working on it first today. I've been kind of scattered as of late. I meditated last night and this morning. I take issue with the words God and people shoving their religion on me, no matter how well-intentioned they are. My dad, John, once called me his little iconoclast. Here's what I do believe. The universe is a large place, and everyone has their place in it. I don't believe things happen for a reason, or that God wills people to be traumatized. I think that particular notion is bullshit. If you believe that, that's fine. There are a great many people who subscribe to it. I do believe man has free will, and such when a man or woman chooses to break the law, they should answer for their crimes. Do I believe that people with mental illness deserve a free pass because sometimes they break from reality? No. Let me tell you why. I have a mental illness, and ultimately, I believe you're responsible for your own actions. Because when I see these mass killers, the movie theater shootings, and Newtown do what they do, I have to look to the people around them. Surely they must have seen the warning signs. Those with serious mental health issues always have warning signs. Just because one thinks you should just suck it up and be a man or woman and deal with it doesn't mean the universe is letting you off the hook. The Newtown shooter's mother took him to the shooting range and talked about the end of days. I have an outlet for my emotions, my writing. The movies were my refuge. I watch television. Now it seems sometimes when these things happen, the news starts bandying the word mental illness around and painting everyone with the same stigmatizing brush. They use pop psychology terminology and get so-called experts who target one thing or another. First it's the movies, then it's television, now it's video games. Here's the thing. Back in the day, it was Tipper Gore's insane crusade against rock music. Teenagers find outlets. These things aren't the problem. They are not the reason why people kill. These people are sick. They need medication and therapy. But even then, the way people are treated and the way treatment is viewed, people often think they're trash and that they're disposable. And yes, often people break away from reality and these tragedies occur. But the legal definition of insanity is such to know the difference between right and wrong. I knew the difference between right and wrong. I sometimes didn't know if I would live or die. I read controversial books. I questioned authority. I wrote dark stories. I still do. And I live with a bipolar diagnosis in a hostile environment. But that doesn't give me the right to go and inflict my state of misery on someone else. It doesn't give me a pass to destroy someone else's life. However, there are very real situations where self-defense pushes you to do the impossible, the unthinkable. Domestic violence is often the end result of broken people perpetuating a cycle of brokenness upon themselves. It doesn't give the abuser a free pass. When my mom and stepdad tell me I didn't have it hard or that my biological father had a bad childhood, only half that sentiment is true. Jerry had it very rough growing up. There was no warmth in his life. As a result, he filled it with anguish and pain, and is dying a lonely old man filled with bitterness. That doesn't give him a pass for what he did to me. In my parents' defense, they don't know what Jerry did to me, but then they're broken too. The ones who weren't were cold. There was love in their home, and to some degree, I'm sure I clung to that. I'm not perfect, not by a mile. But I take responsibility for the adult I've become. I'm not a failure. In fact, I consider myself a success with both professional friends and close friends whom I hold very close to my heart. When handling myself in my career, I try to follow my heroes' examples. Like George Clooney, there are girls as opposed to the boys. In that circle is my best friend, Melissa Goodman, and my friend, Pamela Turner. Each authors, award-winning screenwriters, and authors in their own right. They have been there from the beginning, and as a result, are celebrating it as they, and as far as celebrating it as they, I want to always tell first when something good happens. I know they are genuine good people who have my back. Then there are those who have helped mentor me. Leah Skizzes, Ellen Eldridge, and Delilah Steffens. And then there are many others I am failing to mention, but they know the good turns they have done me they should know that the good turns they have done me have been forgotten. Like you, I choose to concern myself in my own career with my own career and not worry about who's doing better or who's doing worse, because there's always that dynamic. My career is successful because I've worked hard and I've capitalized on certain opportunities. I'm a survivor of childhood sex abuse. I live with a mental illness. I choose right over might. I read banned books. I see violent movies. And I know there is a stigma talking about all of this. But I'm sick and tired of people blaming outside elements on what is essentially a lack of treatment for a serious illness. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle. Dear Daniel, I have a confession to make. Last fall, while writing Gemini's War, I bought the song Skyfall by Adele on Amazon. Dear Daniel, you ever have one of those holy craptastic moments where you think, this is it? I really did it. I climbed, I fought, and they're really giving me a reward for it? Well, the winners of the Fright Night Film Festival were announced really late last night. And maybe it's a little late, and maybe nobody is watching, but we did it. Me and Missy really did it. Bounty Hunter, the book I was inspired to write after seeing Cowboys and Aliens, which inspired me to call on Missy to help adapt it to screenplay, won Best Sci-Fi Screenplay. I know the reality is you're not watching this or reading this, but I owe so much of this particular project to you, Daniel. Your talent allows me to project my imagination onto what I need the character to do. If you were a limited actor, I couldn't do half the writing I do. I tend to cast my work. There are other actors, but I do have preference for your style of acting, so it's easy to cast you. Don't get me wrong. What I do isn't fan fiction by any stretch of the imagination. What I do is hard work. I like casting Eva Green and Kate Winslet in the female leads as much as I like casting the men. Kate Blanchett is another favorite. Jennifer Lawrence, Constance Towers, Maurice Bernard. I digress. I won, and it's because Cowboys and Aliens reignited my passion with all things sci-fi, dystopian, and Western. So I really have you and a splendid cast, crew, director, writers, and producers to thank for that. I cried last night. I know, it's just a competition. Failure isn't fatal, and success isn't permanent. But when you work hard and see it pay off, it's one of those things that make you want to keep going. It's fuel for when you're feeling down and thinking the whole world is against you. When you think everything's a clusterfuck, and it makes you turn and see things aren't all bad. That someone, professionals, people who work in the same arena as you do, respect your work, and it lets you know that even though you live in a nowhere town where someone thinks highly of your work and you're not working in a vacuum. I need to submit my screenplays to agents and production companies. I have the credits now, but I'm waiting to hear from Austin and Sundance. I'm sure that will impress people more, but I've never won a competition, and it feels good to get one under my belt. You know, I can almost forgive Phantom Fest and Stan Lee for eating my food. And I was on the cover of my local newspaper the Wednesday before we left for Phantom. It just feels like everything is going my way. Not that I'm assuming it always will. And if you've read this blog at all, you know that isn't the case. But right now it is. My dad even made me a celebratory fried egg and cheese sandwich. He's a little crazy right now, but he has a big trial coming up, so it's basically duck and cover. But he was sweet enough to indulge me this morning. I wonder if I'll ever meet my heroes. But until then, I'm content to come to this blog and write letters to you. I'm sure you're not reading it, but I can't help it. You have no idea how much your work and your work ethic has shown the light on, at times, what has been a very dark path for me. Here's a picture of my stepdad that I call dad. Truth be told, as hard as he and my mother have made it from time to time, I love them very much, and they have helped make me the person I am today. Sincerely, Amy McCorkle.
Carry you to undying passion from the start. I love you. I love you. A rose may bloom but for a season, then petals fall upon the ground. But you have been my salvation. You pick me up when I fall down. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. You alone are worthy. You alone I need. Breathe on us, sweet Spirit, as we bow on our knees. I love you. 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 I love you.
All right, we're back. How many times have you watched that now?
Festival screenings and watching it on here, double digits now.
Isn't it fun being a filmmaker and having to watch your film, especially your first one,
No.
a couple times?
The message is important, and it has a soft spot in my heart. And because the message is so powerful in the film, it does well on the festival circuit. It behooves me. It keeps the conversation about Letters to Daniel going. So it makes sense for me to enter it into certain film festivals.
That's absolutely right. And that's the point of what we were doing with these live broadcasts. And kind of like what we talked about before is just raising awareness for persons with bipolar disorder who want to use the creative process for hope, for careers, for following your dreams, and things like that. So we appreciate being able to screen that with you, and I appreciate you coming on through our first 3 broadcasts of this and interviewing with me and talking about the Letters to Daniel project and you know, reliving the moment of putting this film together. So
I will say this, the judge I was telling you about asked him to share with me some of his notes, and he said, of course, the power is in the writing. He goes, your detriment is that you had no production value. But when I was at AOF that first year in 2016, and we were at the writing awards dinner, he said he leaned over to me after I won, and he said, actually after we both cried, because him and his husband were there, and me and his husband were being catty about being amongst them out on the West Coast, because I did, it's like a girl from Kentucky out. You just, you don't, when you're that welcome. I was like, I'm here. I'm just here for the food. I don't expect to win. So when I did win, it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, yeah.
But I got to, have you met Richard McKee?
I don't think I have.
At Indie Gathering, him and his production partner, Jody Beth. Rich and me spent a lot of time because that year Jody couldn't stay the whole time. So she said, you're going to take care of Rich, right? And I'm like, dude, you're screwed because usually Missy's taking care of me. We're done for. But he didn't go to the Writers Awards because they don't do the scripts. They strictly do films. And so Andrew says, Amy, there are 3 responses that this film has had, your work has had. And he was speaking to Letters to Daniel specifically.
Okay.
And one was there's the people who look at it and they see there's no production value and they just dismiss it out of hand. There's a feel good effect. You see me go from the bottom to the top. So, so to speak, you see me on the recovery. So it's the feel good effect. He said, but then there are those people who watch it and they see a deeper talent underneath. And he goes, and I believe that's the experience you're having here. And he said that about AOF. Now, I mean, obviously Indie Gathering sees something in what I do too, but AOF just does it on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And what Indie Gathering did was it gave me the confidence to go after something bigger like AOF. But I still like coming to Indie Gathering because it's such a nice atmosphere and it's such a low key event. And that what I like about Indie Gathering is that everybody there is a winner, basically.
Yeah, they're moving to a new place this year, a new venue.
Yeah, Richfield, Ohio, which is actually 20 minutes closer to where I live.
It's closer where you live, but
it affects our driving time.
Okay.
It affects our driving time, and when it takes you between typically when the traffic is right, it takes us about 5.5 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But this year, because there was construction and there was tons of traffic, it took us 7 hours to get there.
Does driving cause you to get anxious at all?
No, because I'm not the one driving. If I had to drive, that would be a different thing altogether.
Right, okay.
But the first place to give me an award for Letters to Daniel, this film, was Indie Gathering. And it was on a fluke that I entered it. And it's the same thing with AOF. I entered it to support the script and the short that I was entering.
Right.
So I entered all 3, and the script was accepted. The short was accepted, and the film is the one that won the award. It won 2 awards. So I talk about being shocked. As shocked as I was at the writing awards, it wasn't such a shock, but it was a shock that it happened at such a big place when there's more people competing. There's just more people competing for those spots.
Yeah.
And with a message like this, people coming out, of course you have the agony and the ecstasy of something like this screening in front of a distributor, because either they're going to get them, what distributors look for are things that good production value, they're looking for things, but the distributor that was sitting in the room in the theater, it wasn't in the screen, it was in a movie theater, and I was watching him. He fell asleep during the movie, and when he woke up, he sat there for maybe 20 minutes and got up and walked out. You have to deal with stuff like that too.
Right.
But there were people, but at the end, I had 2 people approach me. One asked me what I edited with. And I could see, and I saw that guy, and I watched his responses, and he laughed where he was supposed to laugh. and he was nodding in agreement in places where he was supposed to be nodding.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the kind of response you want. And then when I got down to the bottom, there was a girl, and I say a girl, but she was just younger than me. So she was crying, and she said, "You're so brave. My mother has this," and she was another filmmaker there, and she just started opening up and telling me her story. And so this is
Yeah.
she's these people are the reason why I make the film.
Yeah, that's
She's the reason I make the film. So and so there's always that. I had people walk out of it last time that it screened at Hollywood Dreams because in the movie theater the speakers were wrong, and it was so loud, and it would crack in places on that theater, and it was hurting their ears, and they couldn't take it. No. So, but they got the message to me, so they didn't think they were just walking out of some crappy movie.
Yeah, that's just the technician not having the volume right at the theater.
Yeah, and so I've had it screened now. I've Hollywood Dreams as a part of AOF. I also submitted it to low to no budget, and that film is definitely low to no budget. So it can cost anywhere from $0 to make to $50,000. That's the budget the film has to fall into. Mm-hmm. And so I'll just say this film falls in that budget, closer to the zero side.
That's all you got to say.
Yeah, it just falls in those two, right? It's in between those two. But I would say that it doesn't take it. Just if you want to make a film, that is proof that you can make a film. If you have a vision. And, you have another film of mine that we're going to do one broadcast of, All in the Family. Mm-hmm. And I had done Black Gold, which everybody liked. Everybody saw that as a step forward. And someone watched it, someone I respect a great deal. And
hopefully we'll be able to release Black Gold soon for digital download.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about, and I want to message about Sunday mornings are the best time to catch Valio. And by Sunday mornings, it means when I'm up really late at night. It's like because our hours are
right
lopsided.
Like scheduling that one in and of itself is difficult.
Yeah.
So.
But
well, we'll have to. So we're gonna do All in the Family. We're gonna do a special screening of that.
Yeah, like sneak preview to see before it goes out on the festival circuit.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and it's about it, and it's been getting good traction on the festival circuit already.
And just give everyone a synopsis of what All in the Family is.
It is an intimate look at a family's struggle with the genetic nature of bipolar disorder, and the family in question is mine. And my mom and dad sit down for interviews. I do an interview. You have not met Rebecca, but I would say you can just see where we are in our recovery processes. Mm-hmm. She's in treatment, but you can just see she sits down and she gives a very, people talk about, they call her interview heartbreaking. She's very real with her story. And, I'm on the other side of it, and I've been talking like an advocate for so long. That's how I present almost. Right. In the film. That's the way I'm most comfortable. And that's how you get the best interview out of me, is if I'm scripted to some degree. She has trouble looking at the camera. She has autism.
Okay.
So, but she is very brave, and her grandmother gives an interview. Her other family members didn't want to give an interview.
Cool.
Not because they're bad people, but they just didn't feel comfortable doing it.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, we definitely are going to look forward to screen that. And so again, the PDF book of the documentary is available now on the Healing Hands GWNBC website. The link to the GWNBC splash page and the Letters to Daniel project will be part of this YouTube video. So go ahead and please like the Letters to Daniel project on Facebook and buy a copy of the new PDF.
Yeah, the book is. I'm not trying to brag. If you like the documentary, you're going to love the book, because the book, those are the greatest hits, but that was only out of a certain number of letters I had. This is the whole thing. This is start to finish. It gives the letters. There's words by other people that give context to the letters. You're like, well, why are you writing to Daniel Craig? Why is it him? Why is it Daniel Craig? Well, Daniel Craig is one of my. I think I explained in the first letter. He's my favorite actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hot, but that's not why I chose to tell the story.
Hey, Daniel, if you're listening.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't see Daniel Craig watching this film. Yeah, if you watch this, you go, oh, this chick's a joke. I shouldn't say that about my own film, because it's terrible as a filmmaker when you go back and you watch your first film. It's so hard because and in this case, the mistakes are in the sound, and you hear every place you screwed up, and it's like, why did I do that? And so that's what, like in Black Gold, I flinch every time I see certain things.
Yeah.
All in the Family turned out to be a really good movie. It's like you could see me. The festival director of Ingenuity Film Festival, which is where we won for best writing in a documentary. He said this is a massive step forward for you as a filmmaker.
That's cool.
Yeah, I know. Ideally, there should have been. I would have put more B-roll in, but I was happy with what we got. We shot the film. We made the film. We shot in 2 weeks in July, and then 1 week in September when I got back from the California trip. Basically, I went to Vegas and then I flew to California for a week.
Yep.
And then I came back, and on fumes, I finished it basically. And then I went crash because I had been going since the beginning of August.
Hey, you're living the dream.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you, I'll tell them what I told you. I'll tell the basics of it because I can't get into who and what, But we pitched our first Hollywood pitch, basically, our first major Hollywood pitch. And it went extremely well. It was cause for celebration. Can't get into the details in the public just yet. So it's
little hush hush.
So it's hush hush, but I'll tell you, you'll hear from me first.
Oh, I know. I know about what time I'll hear from you too. That's cool. What else?
We've got 2 more pitches coming up. One with Serena Films, and one with Bohemian Group Originals. So we don't know how those go. I can't say with who they're with, and I can't say what they're for, but one's a management company. I can say that. So possibly that could lead to representation for me and Missy out there, which would be absolutely awesome. So, I hit some hurdles, but things started turning around when I said, hey, John, please help us with letters to Daniel.
I don't know that I was necessarily the magic touch, but we're definitely glad to be working with you guys to promote your work, broadcast stuff that you will allow us to broadcast since you're so awesome over there, and just continuing to work with you in partnership to get this full feature of Letters to Daniel funded, line item, project planned, and ready to go.
Yeah.
So I look forward to working on that with you guys this year, and we will have more news from that project on our G1 NBC and Healing Hands Entertainment splash page website shortly.
Okay.
So thanks for being here.
No problem.
This is our 3rd awareness campaign. We may do another one.
Maybe.
We're going to leave that up to our discretion, so we'll let you know if we're going to do another one. Not you, Amy. I'm talking to the audience. This is a good way to end. I think we should just end it right there. No, really, seriously, I really appreciate you coming on and doing the live stuff with me. Not everybody has the stones to do it.
That's ridiculous. If you're going to have a movie, you need to promote it.
On that note, cos@g1nbc.us, you can email me, and we can talk partnerships to promote your work.
That's a great setup. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. We're helping each other here in this new venture of 21st century live broadcasting.
Well, it's nice. It's a nice way to set up something, to get some feedback and stuff like that. And I think maybe, I don't know how many people watched this tonight, but thank you for those that did. Hopefully you saw something you liked or heard something that would help you. So.
Yep, absolutely. And with that, let's go ahead and close out. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I am John Spalding with G1NBC Cuyahoga County, and I was joined tonight. Oh, always do it the wrong way. With my guest, Amy Leigh McCorkle from Healing Hands Entertainment. So thanks again, Amy, for being here. And we will see you all again. Leave Amy some comments and some feedback on YouTube, and I will make sure that we get that to her. And then links to all the projects and stuff that you guys heard tonight will be in the description. And we will see you later.